Welcome to the Land Use Policy Framework Workshop, which is part of the City of Petaluma's General Plan Update Project. This presentation is a brief orientation to the Land Use Policy Framework. Please visit the project website at planpetaluma.org for more information. State law requires that each city adopt a comprehensive long-term general plan for the physical development of the city. Capital improvements and certain other planning projects, such as zoning actions, development agreements, and subdivisions, must be consistent with the general plan. The general plan also includes policies that relate to a wide variety of matters under local jurisdiction, which can guide future decision-making. The current general plan was adopted in 2008, and it accounts for a planning period through 2025. Petaluma has experienced a great deal of change since 2008, so the city initiated an update to the general plan in 2020. The project is currently in the fourth and fifth phases, policy development and land use alternatives. These phases were informed by background analysis completed during the discovery phase, as well as community input provided during the visioning phase. Concurrently with the general plan update, the city is also developing a climate action plan, the blueprint for carbon neutrality. The team has worked to align these two concurrent efforts and will continue to align greenhouse gas reduction strategies with the general plan elements as the blueprint moves through the adoption process. Policy frameworks were prepared as part of the policy development phase of the project. Policy frameworks outline proposed general plan goals, policies, and implementation actions for each topic addressed by the general plan. They were developed based on the existing general plan, key findings from the existing conditions reports prepared during the discovery phase, various state requirements and guidance, related technical, policy, and programmatic resources, extensive community input, the vision, pillars, and guiding principles developed based on community input during the visioning phase, input from the General Plan Advisory Committee, or GPAC, input from city committees, commissions, and boards, and guidance from city staff and consultants. The draft land use policy framework is one of 14 policy frameworks that outline proposed general plan goals, policies, and implementation actions for each topic addressed by the general plan. The other 13 policy frameworks were reviewed by the public, Petaluma committees and commissions, the GPAC, and the City Council earlier this year. Community input and related direction from the city will inform the draft general plan, which will also be reviewed by the community before it is presented to the City Council for adoption. A Program Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, will be prepared and certified along with the updated general plan. When reviewing the policy frameworks, keep in mind these definitions. A goal is a general statement that expresses the outcomes towards which planning efforts are directed. A policy, in turn, is a statement of intent or direction that contributes towards achieving a goal and that guides decision-making. An action is a specific activity, procedure, program, or project aimed at implementing a policy. The draft land use policy framework is being reviewed by the public, the Planning Commission, the General Plan Advisory Committee, and the City Council. As with the other policy frameworks, community input and related direction from the city will inform the draft general plan. In the nearer term, community input will inform the preparation of a recommended revised land use map, which will be considered by the GPAC, Planning Commission, and City Council this fall. The land use policies and map designate the proposed general location, distribution, and extent of future land uses. The map and policies serve a critical role in conserving ecosystems, natural resources, and community character, keeping future development away from hazards, and ensuring alignment between development and the public facilities, services, and infrastructure needed to support it. Future development patterns follow the direction provided by the land use policies and map to provide the homes and jobs needed by the community. Note that the general plan will be very different from the public draft policy frameworks in the following ways. Policy frameworks are very text-based. The general plan, in turn, will present a compelling and visual approach for achieving the community's vision. Policy framework topics are siloed and correspond with the technical expertise of city staff and consultants. The general plan will be organized differently, in a manner aligned with community priorities and to facilitate implementation. Connections and consistency between policy frameworks are not clear. The general plan will provide a holistic, integrated overall strategy that demonstrates the connections among different plan elements. Policy frameworks do not include any quantitative metrics and related targets. The general plan will include performance metrics, which can be used to monitor the city's progress toward achieving community goals. And while the implementation and governance policy framework includes strategies for implementing the general plan, the policy frameworks do not identify implementation rules and timing. The general plan will include an implementation plan that identifies the implementor, the priority, and the timeframe for each action. A wide range of analysis and community input informed the development of this land use policy framework. The biggest driver of land use change is projected growth in population, housing, and jobs. Based on projections from the state and regional planning agencies, Petaluma needs to plan for approximately 3,000 housing units and over 1 million square feet in non-residential development through 2050. Where should that future growth go? To answer that question, we first considered community input. The general plan vision statement, pillars, and guiding principles reflect community engagement input that occurred during the visioning phase of the general plan update in 2021. The vision, pillars, and guiding principles were accepted by the City Council in March 2022. Together, they provide the basis for the goals, policies, and programs included in the general plan policy frameworks. The community's vision, pillars, and guiding principles provide very clear land use direction as summarized on this slide. The goals, policies, and actions in the land use policy framework reflect this land use direction from the community. To complement general plan community engagement, in 2022, the Petaluma Sustainable Design Assistant Team, or SDAT program, held a community tour in Charette. Central to its recommendation was the 15-minute city concept, in which tasks of daily life can be accomplished within an easy 15-minute walk from home. A great deal of technical analysis has also been completed to complement community direction and to consider how best to accommodate future growth. To gain the best possible understanding of future flooding in Petaluma, the city engaged experts to develop state-of-the-art computer models that closely examine flood hazards. The models examine several factors including terrain, anticipated storm and rainfall patterns, and water coming up the Petaluma River due to sea level rise, tides, and storm surges. The new model shows that the mid-century, around 2050, flood hazard conditions will be similar to existing conditions. To inform land use planning in the general plan update, which has a planning horizon of 2050, the city developed maps for the middle of the century that reflect the low probability scenario of sea level rise of 3.4 feet. These maps were carefully considered when thinking about where to plan for future growth in Petaluma. The general plan team has also been considering the future of parks and open space, along with other future land uses. This slide shows the map of existing and proposed parks and open space, which can be found in the Parks and Recreation Policy Framework. The future of retail and the market and economic analyses completed during the existing conditions phase of the general plan update also informed the draft land use policy framework. Specifically, the framework accounts for anticipated demand for both single-family and multifamily housing, projected growth of manufacturing and distribution businesses, leveraging smart stations, diversifying uses within shopping centers and commercial districts, and focusing higher intensity infill development near downtown, the smart stations, and existing amenities. Likewise, findings from the transportation analysis completed during the existing conditions phase of the general plan update also informed the draft land use policy framework. Most importantly, a principal cause of congestion and high vehicle miles traveled in Petaluma is the low density, largely spread out land use pattern. 2/3 of greenhouse gas emissions, or GHG, in Petaluma are from on-road transportation and high VMT. 1/3 of all trips in Petaluma are less than 2 miles, so reducing distances and barriers between housing and daily destinations would reduce trips as well as congestion and VMT. Likewise, future development that is more dense, i.e. has more housing units per acre, that mixes residential and non-residential uses, and that includes transportation demand management strategies will reduce trips and VMT. To inform the draft land use policy framework, an analysis of the stress and accessibility of the Petaluma transportation network was also undertaken using the draft active transportation network from the city's active transportation plan project. The analysis concluded that improvements in the active transportation network greatly improve access to city destinations in some places, but most improvements in accessibility result from land use changes that allow more people and destinations near the components of the transportation network. To comply with state deadlines, an updated housing element of the general plan was adopted and certified by the state in 2023. It identifies opportunity sites where housing development is anticipated through 2030. These sites were considered when thinking about where to plan for future growth in Petaluma. Considering all of that analysis and community input, the land use policy framework reflects 5 primary citywide strategies. Reduce future development in upstream and downstream river-adjacent areas and increase open space and river access upstream. See those areas shaded in blue on the map. Secondly, consider additional development in the core, shaded yellow or gold on the map, and protect those areas from flooding. Third, encourage additional development along key corridors, shaded maroon on the map, and provide safety and streetscape improvements. Fourth, enhance or create 15-minute activity centers, shown as red dots on the map, so that residents can walk from their home to meet their daily needs. And finally, support the evolution of existing single-family residential neighborhoods by allowing up to 4 housing units per lot and limited commercial activity. The stations at this workshop are organized to reflect these 5 strategies. If you'd like to take a closer look at the land use policy framework, here's a quick orientation to its organization. The first 3 sections of the framework provide important context. The introduction section briefly explains general plans, Petaluma's general plan update project, policy frameworks, project next steps, and key terminology. The land use driver section summarizes the analysis and community input that informed this policy framework, as I explained in the previous slides. The land use implementation section explains how the land use element will be implemented. The remaining sections are the core of the framework that the city would like the community to review. First, there is an overview of land use direction, which summarizes the policy direction established in the framework. This is also a great place to start for people who are already familiar with the General Plan Update Project and policy frameworks. Next, the Land Use Foundation section introduces the General Plan land use designations and map along with potential changes. The remainder of the framework is organized into 4 chapters. Chapter 1, Citywide Evolution. Chapter 2, 15-minute City. Chapter 3, Community Design and Character. And Chapter 4, Sub-Area Policies. A glossary follows Chapter 4. Each chapter is organized into several goals. Each goal, in turn, has several related policies, and many policies have actions that implement those policies. Though community input is invited on any aspect of the framework, throughout the framework, components that will be the focus of community workshops, meetings, and discussions are highlighted in blue. If you have additional feedback on the land use policy framework after today's workshop, please share it at the project website. Thank you again for taking the time to learn more about the future of land use at Petaluma. If you haven't already, sign up for project updates at the project website. Enjoy the workshop.